Hey everybody, it's the Determined Ninja, and today I'm going to be doing a coloring tutorial to the best of my ability. So first off, this art is not mine. It's actually from a Twitter post that someone made where they were just giving out line art for people to color. So I actually really liked the way that they did their line art, so I wanted to do this or color it myself, and I decided to turn it into a tutorial. So as you can see, it's more of like an anthropomorphized Lucario, more so than just a Lucario. So yeah, I was actually not asked directly, but it was shared in a server, and I said that I would color it. So then, yeah, here I am. I'm doing it now. So first things first, what you want to do is take. Oh wait. Okay, so if you happen to be coloring in a pre-rendered line art, you'll know the first thing you'll notice is that there's already like a white background, so you can't just color it in just like that. Like if I take this away, you'll see it's underneath. So what you'll have to do instead is select the layer that the line art is on. And I'm using Metabang Paint Pro, but you should be able to translate this into any other program that you're using. So what you have to do is find an extract lines option. For Metabang Paint Pro, it's under filter. So just go to extract lines, and you'll notice that the background is already gone as it is. So you can use this shifter to mess around with it to get it to where you like. I'm just gonna leave it about where it was, because that is pretty good. And then after that, I already know this isn't gonna work because of the messy lines, and I guess because I have to extract it. But what you would normally have to do, which would make this a lot faster and easier, is you can just select outside. So this is a reason this isn't gonna work, because it has all this choppy blocks all around it. And this doesn't fill in, but that wouldn't be an issue normally. But what you'd want to do is have the selection expanded by 1 pixel. I mean, doing multiple times doesn't seem to do anything. At the very least, so that your colors can go inside of the liner and not just stop right outside of the liner and then leave that gritty mess of white just sticking out there. That's how you can avoid that anyways. I'm sure some of you may have run into that problem before. So after that, you're just gonna take the paint bucket tool, also expanded by 1, and just select the space. I've already said it's not gonna work here. I actually have my base colors all filled in already, so I'll just go over here, or not all of them anyways. But once you've got your base colors in, what you're gonna want to do is either make more layers, or what you can do is turn on the protect alpha, or whatever it may be called in English. It's basically the setting that makes it so you can't color outside of what's already there. So yeah, once you've done that and you got all your base colors and everything from before, you'll just use that, or make separate layers and make a clipping mask so that it does basically the same thing and it doesn't let you go outside of that space. I personally like just keeping it all in the same layer and then making more layers for when I go into shading. So once you've got that, you're just gonna go into all the other spaces that you know are gonna have different colors and just fill them out. So I'll be back when I'm done coloring in all these extra spaces. Okay, so once you've got all the base colors filled in, it's actually looking pretty good so far. Oh, you know what? Another thing I should have mentioned is that when you're doing your base colors, you might want to try you will want to try to stay in the more pastel tones, because when you're using, I'm not sure if I can make a good example out of this, but you might have like had this difficulty for yourself. If you're not going with pastel tones, sometimes it's really hard to get shading colors that like go well together, if that makes any sense. Just don't do base colors without not in pastel. Just trust me, okay? Yeah. So actually, the line art on this is actually pretty messy. It's more of like a sketch almost, but so I have to improvise a little bit. I should have probably mentioned the pastel thing earlier. I'm hoping you're not following along because that might not go too well for you. Actually, I'm probably gonna leave like a note or something at the start so you'll see anyway. But yeah, now when you're getting into shading, you're definitely gonna want to make a new layer here. I would not stay on the same layer. I mean, unless you're painting. That's another story though. We're doing like line art. This is my own way of coloring. Another disclaimer kind of late in the video. So once you're doing shading, I personally make shading for every different section. Not every individual section, but like different colors, for example. Like I'll do all the shading of the blue on the same layer, and then all the shading of like the dark black. It's also worth mentioning, actually, do not try to avoid using straight up black or straight up white because you won't be able to go any darker or any lighter, so it'll make shading and highlighting harder. Okay, so now we're moving into shading. So when you're doing shading, what I tend to do is pick the color that you have, try to move it a little darker, but don't just color in with this. As opposed to that, try to move it to like, so move the hue shifter. It helps blend the colors together a lot better. You definitely want to also pick a light source before you do any of this. Mine is going to be coming from that kind of angle. So what you're going to be doing is just shading in. This is assuming you're a beginner anyways. Shading in anywhere of the light cannot hit. So for example, if the light's coming from, this is more of like a behind him kind of thing, a behind and above. It's definitely not gonna hit like this leg, for example, or any of here, etc. So my shading style is more of like a painterly kind of cell shading. So I'll just messily put this all in and then clean it up later on, which I'll do off camera. Okay, so let's say you've got all your shading in. I'm obviously not done, but I think I've decided I'm not gonna do this whole thing on camera. Let's say you've got your shading in. It looks pretty good. And then what you can do to make things look even better is mess around with the layer types. So you can go to multiply, which is commonly used, and then mess with the lighting. Ooh, I actually kind of like that. So, yeah, you can mess around with the different layer types and the lighting. This is obscure shadow, I think it's called in English, perhaps. You can, if you're on Metabig Paint Pro as well, you can probably count it out. It's right here. In case you're like me and you're trying to do that. Or even hard light. I would not use this for shading, but it doesn't look too bad. Density plus, yeah, just you can try out whatever you want and see what looks nice to you. Lower the opacity as much as you feel is necessary. Oh geez, density is like literally black at full. Okay, well that's not gonna work because it's a dark color. And then we'll get into highlighting. I'll touch up on highlighting real quick. So this is just a coloring and basic shading and highlighting tutorial. I can also do a more in-depth shading and highlighting, or just shading or highlighting tutorial if this video does well or you guys would like me to. So with highlighting, it's basically the same thing. Except rather than doing whatever you know the light will not be hitting, it should be more of like an angle like that. As opposed to doing whatever you know the light will not be hitting, you will want to, I'm just trying to make it a bit more clear. So, oh, it looks like I'm having that glitch again. So what you'll want to do is pick a color, basically the same thing, just move it. You don't have to start like this particularly, and then move the hue shifter into a lighter tone of that color, something that fits well with it. So my pen or tablet is kind of glitching out right now. I'm not so sure if it's the program or my tablet, but yeah, that's a problem I've been dealing with. That's why it's like the opacity. Oh, it fixed itself. Okay, well, never mind then. But let's say you've got all your highlighting done. I'm just messily doing it here so you can get the idea, but not going into it too in depth. Oops. Then what you're gonna want to do after that is you can even blend it out actually. What I like to do anyways, I like to take a brush and then kind of blend it out like this, just taking the original color and blending it out, doing it messily again, nothing too overly detailed. So you could leave it like that, but, or you could go into the layer masks or types again. Oh, and mess with the opacity. Okay, you might not want to blend it out in some cases, depending on which one you intend to be using. Try out the layer types before you try blending it out like I did there. But then yeah, and then you can mess with the opacity depending on how harsh the light is. Definitely not that harsh. As same goes for this, I would not make the shading that thingy, so it'd probably look a little bit more like on this side. See, even when it's messily done, it looks pretty cool, right? So yeah, I think that's it for the tutorial. That pretty much goes over coloring as a whole, actually. So if this tutorial helped you, if this tutorial helped you, feel free to leave a like, comments on what maybe I could do next time if you guys want more of this, and perhaps even consider subscribing. You know, it's free, no reason not to. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Hope this helped, and bye.